I am Rebecca Morgan, 29, and just last week, my quiet life in Oregon that I'd built from scratch. Yeah, it totally clashed with my family's endless demands. The independence I'd scraped together after years of being sidelined, the one thing I'd fought to make real, it exploded into this raw confrontation over a single phone call from home. My parents straight up ordered me to drop everything and fly back for my brother Callum's engagement dinner. And when I hesitated, the line went ice cold. "You're being selfish, Rebecca. Think of how it looks," my mom snapped, with my dad echoing in the background like always. But here's the real kicker. Their words didn't crush me this time. They ignited something fierce. I'm not just walking away. I'm rewriting my whole story and leaving their expectations in the dust. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Hit subscribe, and stay with me for the most satisfying stand you'll ever hear. Looking back, it's almost wild. You wouldn't believe what I'll choose once that final push hits. It started with that phone buzzing on my kitchen counter, the screen lighting up with "Mom" in bold letters. I was in the middle of chopping vegetables for a simple stir-fry, the kind of meal I'd gotten used to making for myself since moving to Oregon 6 months ago. The knife paused mid-slice, carrot bits scattering as I stared at the phone. Part of me wanted to let it go to voicemail, like I had the last couple of times they'd called, but curiosity, or maybe habit, won out, and I wiped my hands on a dish towel before picking up. "Rebecca?" Finally, my mom's voice came through, sharp and impatient, like I'd been dodging her for days instead of just living my life. "No hello, no how are you. Straight to business. We need you home next weekend. Callum's engagement dinner is Saturday, and it's important that the whole family is there." I leaned against the counter, the cool edge pressing into my back. My apartment was small, just a one-bedroom in Portland with mismatched furniture I'd picked up from thrift stores, but it felt like a fortress compared to the house back in California where I'd grown up. "Mom, I can't just drop everything. Work's been busy, and flights aren't cheap." She sighed, that long, dramatic exhale she always did when I didn't immediately agree. I could picture her in the kitchen, probably stirring something on the stove while Dad sat at the table with his newspaper, pretending not to listen. "Busy with what exactly? That little job of yours?" "Rebecca, this is family. Callum's getting engaged to Emily. You remember her, right? The one from his college days. Everyone will be expecting you." Everyone. That word hung there, heavy. Not that they missed me or wanted to catch up. Just appearances. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. "I remember. But why does it matter if I'm there? It's his night." "Because it does," she snapped, her tone rising. "We raised you better than to be so self-centered. Your brother has always included you, even when you were off doing whatever it is you do. The least you can do is show up and smile for the photos." I felt a familiar knot twist in my stomach. The one that had been there since I was a kid. Raised me better? They raised me to fade into the background while Callum shone. He was the golden child, the athlete, the straight-A student, the one who followed the script. Me? I was the artsy one, the dreamer who preferred books and sketches over sports and parties. My achievements? They were footnotes, like the time I won that regional art contest in high school. Mom had nodded politely before launching into a story about Callum's latest soccer goal. "Dad's on the line too," she added, and sure enough, his gruff voice chimed in. "Becca, don't make this difficult. We've booked the venue, and it's not complete without you." Becca. He only called me that when he wanted something. I paced the tiny kitchen, my socks sliding on the linoleum floor. Outside the window, rain pattered against the glass. Oregon weather, constant and soothing, nothing like the sunny perfection of home. "I get it, but I've built something here. Friends, a routine. It's not easy to just leave." Mom laughed, but it wasn't warm. It was that pitying chuckle. "Built what? Honey, you're 29 and living alone in the middle of nowhere. Callum's settling down, starting a real life. We just want you to be part of it. For once, think about us." For once, as if I hadn't spent years thinking about them, bending to their whims. Birthdays where my gifts were afterthoughts, holidays where conversations revolved around Callum's promotions or girlfriends. I'd tag along, smiling, pretending it didn't sting. But 6 months ago, I'd hit my limit. Packed my car with what fit and drove north, chasing a job at a small graphic design firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Mornings with coffee from the corner cafe, evenings walking along the Willamette River, feeling the mist on my face, no one demanding I fit their mold. "Rebecca?" Dad's voice pulled me back. "You still there?" "Yeah," I muttered, stopping by the fridge where a magnet held up a photo of me and my new friend group, people I'd met at a local art meetup. They were laughing, arms around each other. "Real. Look, I'll think about it, but don't count on me." The silence stretched, then Mom's voice turned cold. "Think fast. The dinner's in a week. And Rebecca, don't embarrass us by not showing up. Family sticks together." Click. The line went dead. I set the phone down, my hand shaking slightly. Embarrass us? That was the core of it. Not love, not concern, just how it looked to their friends, the neighbors, the extended relatives who'd whisper if the wayward daughter was absent again. I sank into a chair. The half-chopped carrots forgotten. My mind raced back to all the times I'd swallowed my pride. Like Callum's college graduation, I'd driven hours to be there only for Mom to forget to save me a seat, waving it off with, "Oh, you can stand in the back." Or my 25th birthday, when they surprised me with a dinner that turned into a celebration of Callum's new job. I'd smiled through it, but inside, it chipped away. But now, in this quiet apartment with the rain drumming steadily, something shifted. That call wasn't just a demand, it was the final straw. I'd built a life here, piece by piece, a job where my boss actually valued my ideas, friends who asked about my day without ulterior motives. Why go back to play pretend? I stood up, grabbing my sketchbook from the table. Flipping it open, I started doodling absent-mindedly. A figure breaking free from chains, the lines bold and jagged. My heart pounded as the realization hit. I didn't have to go. I could say no. For the first time, the thought didn't terrify me. It excited me. The phone buzzed again, a text from Mom. "Tickets are expensive last minute. Decide soon." Then powered the phone off. The silence in the room felt powerful, like I'd just taken my first real breath in years. That night, as I lay in bed listening to the rain, I replayed the call in my head. Their voices, so sure, so entitled. But underneath, I felt a spark. Not anger exactly, more like resolve. I'd been the outcast for so long, molded to fit their narrative. But no more. This was my life, and I was done letting them dictate it. The next morning, I woke with a clearer head. Brewed coffee, sat by the window, and thought about what saying no would mean. Severing ties, maybe, but the freedom, that pulled stronger. I picked up the phone, drafted a message. "I won't be coming. Wish Callum well." My finger hovered over send, heart racing. This was it, the break. I hit send. The whoosh sound echoed in the quiet room. No going back now. Minutes after sending that text, I sat there staring at my phone, half expecting it to explode with replies. But nothing came. Not right away. The silence gave me space to think, and my mind drifted back, pulling up memories I'd tried to bury. It wasn't just the call that had built this wall. It was years of it, stacking up like bricks. I remembered one night in particular, from when I was about 12, that captured it all. The way I was always invisible next to Callum. It was a Friday evening, the kind where the house smelled like Mom's lasagna baking in the oven, cheese bubbling over the edges. I'd come home from school buzzing with excitement, my backpack heavier than usual because I'd stuffed my art project inside. It was a watercolor painting I'd worked on for weeks in class. A landscape of the beach near our house, with waves crashing and seagulls dipping low. My teacher, Mrs. Harlan, had pulled me aside after school, her eyes wide as she handed it back with an A+ scrawled in red. "Rebecca, this is exceptional," she'd said, squeezing my shoulder. "You have real talent. I'm entering it in the county fair contest." I'd floated home on that praise, imagining telling my family, seeing their faces light up. I burst through the front door, kicking off my shoes in the entryway, the painting clutched carefully in both hands. "Mom! Dad! Look what I did!" My voice echoed down the hall, high-pitched and eager. Callum was already in the living room, sprawled on the couch with his soccer cleats still on, mud flaking onto the carpet. He was 14 then, all lanky limbs and cocky grins, fresh from practice. Mom poked her head out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "What's all the noise, Becca?" She glanced at the painting as I held it up, my arms shaking a little from the effort. "Oh, that's nice, honey, very colorful." She nodded once, then turned back to the oven timer beeping. "No questions, no closer look, just that." Dad was in his recliner, remote in hand, flipping channels. "Let me see," he muttered, barely glancing over. I stepped closer, unfolding the paper carefully so the wet parts wouldn't smudge. "It's the beach, Dad. See the waves? Mrs. Harlan said it's good enough for the fair." He squinted, then chuckled. "Waves, huh? Looks a bit like a storm's coming in. Good job, kiddo." And that was it. He clicked to the sports channel, volume up. My chest tightened, but I forced a smile, rolling the painting back up. Maybe later, at dinner, they'd really look. Callum snorted from the couch. "Art stuff again? Lame. Check this out, I scored 2 goals today. Coach said I'm starting next game." He flexed his arm, pretending to kick an invisible ball. Mom lit up at that, rushing in with a glass of milk for him. "2 goals? That's my boy. Tell me all about it." She sat on the arm of the couch, her full attention on him, laughing at his play-by-play. Dad leaned forward too, eyes glued. "Atta boy, Cal, you're gonna go pro someday." I stood there, painting in hand, feeling like a ghost. The lasagna smell turned sour in my nose. I slipped into the kitchen, tucking the artwork into my backpack again, out of sight. Dinner that night was all about Callum, the goals, the coach's praise, even what his teammates said. I picked at my food, waiting for a gap to mention my painting again. When I finally did, midway through, "Hey, about my art." "Oh, right," Mom interrupted, waving her fork. "We saw it, sweetie, it's cute, but Callum, what about that assist you mentioned?" And just like that, I was erased. That night stuck with me because it wasn't a one-off, it was the pattern. Flash forward a few years. I was 16 and I'd just landed the lead in the school play, a big deal for me. Rehearsals every night, lines memorized until I dreamed them. The performance was on a Saturday, and I'd begged them to come. "It's important," I'd said, handing out tickets at breakfast. They showed up, late, shuffling into seats during the opening scene. Afterward, in the lobby, I was sweaty and beaming in my costume, friends hugging me, the director patting my back. "You were amazing, Rebecca." But Mom and Dad? They hovered near the exit. "Good show, Becca," Dad said, checking his watch. "Callum's game ran long, we almost missed the end." Callum had a basketball tournament that day, of course. He won MVP, Mom added proudly, pulling out her phone to show photos of him with the trophy. My castmates milled around, but my family's focus was elsewhere. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "That's great for him." Or take my high school graduation. I was valedictorian, straight A's, despite juggling art club and a part-time job at the library. I'd written a speech about chasing dreams, poured my heart into it. On stage under the lights I scanned the crowd for them. They were there, but Dad was on his phone, Mom whispering to the lady next to her. After, hugs were quick. "Proud of you," Mom said, but then, Callum's college acceptance came today. Full scholarship. Always him. His soccer scholarships, his business degree, his entry-level job that turned into a promotion within months. My art degree? Impractical, Dad called it. My freelance gigs? Hobbies. I'd send them links to my designs published online, and the response was crickets or a vague, nice. Even holidays reinforced it. Christmases where gifts for Callum were thoughtful, new gear, tech gadgets, while mine were generic like a sweater 2 sizes too big. "We didn't know what you wanted," Mom would say, but they knew Callum's wish list by heart. Back in my apartment now, with that text sent, those memories flooded in, each one a pinprick. I'd internalized it, thought maybe I was the problem, not shiny enough, not conventional, but sitting there, rain still tapping the window, I saw it clearer. It was neglect, plain and simple. Emotional starvation disguised as family love. I got up, needing to move, paced to the window, pressing my forehead against the cool glass. My reflection stared back, tired but determined. Why had I let it go on so long? Fear, maybe, of being truly alone. But alone here felt better than invisible there. The phone finally buzzed, a reply from Dad. "This is disappointing, call us tomorrow to discuss." No emotion, just command. I deleted it, heart pounding. The flashbacks weren't just pain, they were fuel. I wouldn't discuss, I'd decide. That evening I sketched more. Faces from memory, Mom's distracted smile, Dad's averted eyes, Callum's smug grin. Putting it on paper made it real, made me angry in a way that felt productive. I wasn't going back to that, not for a dinner, not for appearances. As night fell, I curled up with a book, the apartment quiet except for the hum of the fridge. The invisibility had shaped me, but it wouldn't define me anymore. I'd outgrown their shadows. That book I curled up with was an old favorite. a worn paperback about a woman who reinvented herself in a new city, leaving behind a toxic past. As I turned the pages, the words blurred a bit, my mind still churning from the flashbacks. But somewhere in chapter 3, where the protagonist packs her bags in the dead of night, it hit me like a thunderclap. The aha moment that changed everything. I wasn't just reading, I was seeing my own life, mirrored back. Why wait for another slight, another dismissal? I could leave. Right then, the seed planted. Oregon. It wasn't random. I'd visited once for an art retreat, fallen in love with the misty forests and the way the air felt clean, unburdened. My finger traced the book's spine, heart racing as the idea solidified. This was it, my escape, my secret sanctuary. I set the book down, hands trembling slightly as I reached for my laptop on the nightstand. The screen glowed in the dim room, casting shadows on the walls. I opened a browser, typing "jobs in Portland, Oregon," with deliberate keystrokes, each one feeling like a step away from home. Listings popped up, graphic design positions, freelance gigs, even a part-time at a bookstore. But I zeroed in on one, junior designer at a small eco-friendly branding firm. The description read, like it was written for me, creative freedom, focus on sustainable art. My mouse hovered over the apply button, doubt creeping in. What if I failed? What if I ended up more alone? I clenched my jaw, pushing the thought aside, and clicked submit, attaching my portfolio with a deep breath. The next few weeks blurred into a whirlwind of secrecy. I didn't tell anyone. Not Mom, not Dad, definitely not Callum. At work, my dead-end admin job in California, I'd sneak applications during lunch, hunching over my phone in the break room, sandwich forgotten beside me. Fingers flying over the keyboard, crafting cover letters that poured out my passion without revealing the desperation. I'm seeking a fresh start where my designs can make an impact, I wrote, deleting and rephrasing until it felt authentic. Nights were for packing, quietly sorting through my room. I'd pull out clothes from the closet, folding them into boxes hidden under my bed, the fabric soft against my palms. Each item was a choice. Keep the sketchbooks full of dreams, ditch the family photos that stung. The struggle hit hardest with money. I had some savings, scraped from side gigs, but not enough for a cross-country move. I sat at my desk one evening, calculator in hand, crunching numbers under the harsh lamplight. Rent in Portland, $1,200. Gas for the drive, $300. First month's utilities, another $200. My pen scratched totals on a notepad, the ink smudging where my sweaty hand rested. It added up too high. Panic rose, a tight band around my chest. I paced the room, bare feet padding on carpet, stopping to stare out the window at the familiar streetlights. Sell stuff? I grabbed my phone. Posting ads for my old bike, some furniture, micro actions to bridge the gap. The bike sold first to a neighbor kid. I handed over the keys with a forced smile, pocketing the cash like a lifeline. Emotional hurdles loomed larger. Doubt whispered constantly, "You're abandoning them. They'll hate you." One night after a particularly grueling day, I broke down in the shower, hot water mixing with tears as I scrubbed my face raw. The steam fogged the mirror, but I could still see my reflection, eyes red, shoulders slumped. "Why can't you just fit in?" I muttered to myself, echoing their voices. But then, wiping the mirror with a towel, I stared harder. No, this was for me. I dried off, wrapped in a robe, and sat cross-legged on the bed, journaling furiously. Pages filled with raw thoughts. I've given enough. Time to build something mine. The pen dug into the paper, leaving indents. The aha echoed in small victories, too. A call back from the Portland firm came via email. Subject line glaring, "Interview scheduled." I read it twice, heart pounding, then fist-pumped the air alone in my room. The video call was nerve-wracking. I adjusted my blouse collar repeatedly, smoothing hair that wouldn't stay put. The interviewer, a kind-faced woman named Lena, smiled through the screen. "Your portfolio stands out, real emotion in those designs." I nodded, voice steady despite the butterflies. "Thank you, I've always poured myself into my work." She offered the job on the spot and I accepted, fingers gripping the mouse like it might vanish. Packing intensified. I'd wait until late when the house was quiet to load boxes into my car trunk. The weight of each one, books, clothes, art supplies, pressed on my arms, muscles straining as I heaved them in. One box slipped, corner catching my shin. I hissed in pain, rubbing the spot, but kept going. Secrecy added thrill and terror. What if they found out? Mom knocked on my door once, mid-pack. I shoved a box under the bed, heart and throat. Just cleaning, I lied, voice too high. She bought it, wandering off. The drive north was the ultimate test. I left at dawn, note on the kitchen table. Gone for a while, need space. Love, Rebecca. Simple, no details, they didn't deserve them. The car hummed along the interstate, miles ticking by. Rain started in Northern California, wipers swishing rhythmically. I gripped the wheel, knuckles white, second-guessing every exit. Hunger gnawed, I pulled into a rest stop, buying a stale sandwich, eating it in the car while staring at the map app. Oregon border approached, and with it, a wave of freedom. Crossing it, I rolled down the window, cool air rushing in, carrying pine scent. Tears came again, but cathartic this time. Arriving in Portland, exhausted, I unloaded into the tiny apartment. Boxes stacked haphazardly, I collapsed on the bare mattress, body aching. But morning brought quiet success. First day at work, Lena greeted me with coffee, showing me my desk overlooking the river. "Dive in," she said. I did, sketching logos for a local nonprofit, ideas flowing like never before. No judgment, just encouragement. "This is brilliant," a coworker said later, peering over. My chest swelled. Struggles persisted. Loneliness hit evenings. I'd microwave dinner, eating alone, fork scraping the plate. Bills piled, unexpected car repair ate savings. I juggled, taking freelance on weekends, fingers cramping over the tablet. But successes mounted subtly. Joined an art group. First meeting, I shared a piece, hands fidgety. Applause followed, genuine. Made friends, Sarah, who invited me hiking. We trudged trails, mud squelching under boots, laughing at slips. Built routines. Morning runs along the waterfront, mist dampening my shirt, endorphins chasing doubts. 6 months in, it coalesced. A big project at work, branding for a startup. My design won the pitch, client raved, bonus check arrived, padding my account. Personal wins, gallery show invite for my sketches. I hung pieces, nails hammered carefully, stepping back to admire. Opening night, strangers complimented. I sipped wine, cheeks flushing with pride. This hidden life wasn't massive fame, but profound, independent, valued. No more shadows. As I lay in bed that night, post-text reflecting, I traced the ceiling cracks. The struggle forged strength. The aha birthed sanctuary. They couldn't touch this. But even as I lay there tracing those ceiling cracks, convinced I'd drawn my line in the sand, my phone lit up again on the nightstand, vibrating insistently against the wood. I reached over, squinting at the screen. Dad calling this time. My thumb hovered over decline, but something, guilt maybe, or that old pull of obligation made me answer. "What?" I said, voice flat, sitting up in bed with the sheets pooling around my waist. "Rebecca, that text was unacceptable," he started, no preamble, his tone like gravel. I could hear the creak of his office chair in the background, the one he always sat in for serious talks. "Your mother's upset. This isn't just about you. Callum's worked hard for this moment, and we need the family united. You're coming home." I rubbed my eyes, the room dark except for the phone's glow. "I already said no? Why can't you respect that?" "Because it's selfish," he shot back, and I flinched, even alone. "We've supported you through everything, school, your little art phases. The least you can do is show up for one night. Flights, we'll cover it. Just get here." Supported me? The word twisted in my gut. I swung my legs over the bed's edge, feet hitting the cold floor, pacing to the window where city lights twinkled below. "It's not about the money. It's about everything else. You don't get it." He sighed, long and heavy. "Becca, life's not perfect. Families compromise. Callum asked for you specifically, said it wouldn't feel right without his sister." That hit low, using Callum as bait. My brother and I weren't close, but he wasn't the villain. He just basked in the light they shone on him. I leaned my forehead against the glass, breath fogging it. Part of me wanted to hang up, block them all, but another part whispered, one last time, "Prove you've moved on by facing them, then walk away clean." "Fine," I muttered, the word tasting bitter. "I'll come, but this is it. No more demands." "Good girl," Dad said, relief evident. "Flight details incoming. See you Saturday?" Click. I stood there, phone limp in my hand, regret already pooling. Why had I caved? The sanctuary I'd built felt fragile now, invaded, but it was done. I'd go, play the part one final time, then sever for good. The next morning dawned gray, Oregon mist hanging thick outside. I shuffled to the kitchen, brewing coffee with mechanical motions. Scoop, pour, press the button. The aroma filled the air, grounding me as I checked emails on my laptop at the table. Work beckoned. The firm had a massive pitch today, one that could change everything. We'd been courting this client for months, a national eco-brand wanting a full rebrand. My designs were the centerpiece, the ones I'd poured late nights into, tablet stylus wearing grooves in my fingers. As the coffee dripped, I scrolled through notes from Lena. Your concepts nailed it. If we land this, it's bonuses all around, maybe even a promotion for you. Promotion. The word sparked a thrill. This wasn't just a job, it was my ladder up, proof I could thrive without their approval. The deal was on the verge, client meeting at noon, virtual with execs deciding by end of day. Life-changing, more money, stability, maybe even starting my own side studio. But the dinner loomed, poisoning the excitement. I sipped the hot brew, scalding my tongue slightly, wincing as I pulled up flight bookings. Dad had emailed, red-eye Friday, back Sunday. I confirmed, credit card in hand, though they said they'd reimburse. Micro movements, typing numbers, clicking seats, window, always for the escape view. Bag packed mentally, simple dress, nothing flashy, to blend. At work, the office buzzed with pre-pitch energy. I arrived early, badge swiping the door with a beep, heels clicking on tile. My desk overlooked the river, sketches pinned to the corkboard. I adjusted them, straightening edges with careful fingers, nerves jangling. Lena stopped by, coffee in hand. Ready? Your waterfall motif for their logo, genius. I nodded, forcing a smile, stomach churning. Yeah, let's crush it. But inside, the family shadow hovered. Why go? The question looped as I rehearsed slides, mouse clicking through transitions, voice murmuring lines. The meeting kicked off at noon, screen sharing my designs. Execs appeared in grid view, nodding thoughtfully. Love the integration of natural elements, one said, leaning forward. I elaborated, voice steady despite the pulse in my throat, gesturing with hands off camera. Questions flew. I answered, citing inspirations. Oregon hikes, river flows. Micro actions, sipping water to wet dry lips, adjusting headset when it slipped. It rapped positively. We'll deliberate and get back by 5, the lead exec said. Handshakes virtual, then log out. Team high-fived, virtual slaps. Nailed it, Rebecca, Lena beamed. I exhaled, shoulders dropping, but the high was short. Clock ticked toward the inevitable. Afternoon dragged. I fiddled with files, renaming folders meticulously, avoiding thoughts of home. But they crept in. Mom's judgmental glance, Dad's gruff commands, Callum's oblivious charm. Why had I agreed? To avoid more guilt trips? Or to show them I'd succeeded despite them? At 4, a text from Mom. Glad you're coming. Wear something nice, photos. I gripped the phone, thumb pressing hard on the screen. Nice. As if I didn't know. I replied curtly, got it. Then, the email pinged, client decision. Heart hammering, I opened it. Thrilled to partner, contract incoming. We landed it. Cheers erupted in chat. Lena called, this is huge, your work sealed it. I laughed, genuine joy bubbling, fist pumping the air alone at my desk. But the triumph mixed with dread. Packing that evening, I folded clothes deliberately. Black dress, ironed with steam hissing, creases sharp. Zipped toiletries bag, hand lingering on the zipper. Mirror check, hair tied back, face pale. You can do this, I whispered, eyes meeting my reflections. Dinner with friends cancelled, I texted Sarah. Family emergency, rain check. Lie, but easier, she replied supportively, thumbs up emoji. Genuine care contrasting the cold summons. Bed early, but sleep evaded. I tossed, sheets tangling, mind racing. The deal meant freedom, raise, perhaps move to a better apartment. But the dinner, a gauntlet. I'd endure, then return to this life, stronger. Morning came too soon. Airport shuttle, bag wheels rumbling on pavement, security line, shoes off, belt through scanner, boarding, seatbelt click. As the plane taxied rain-streaked windows, I clutched armrests. One night. Then done. The plane touched down with a jolt, wheels screeching on the tarmac as we taxied to the gate. I gripped the armrests tighter, my nails digging into the worn fabric, staring out at the familiar California skyline, sunny and sharp, no trace of Oregon's comforting haze. One night, I reminded myself, unbuckling my seatbelt with a click that echoed too loudly in my head. Then back to my real life. The one where that client deal waited like a promise. I slung my carry-on over my shoulder, the strap biting into my skin, and shuffled down the aisle with the crowd, each step feeling heavier. Rental car keys jangled in my hand at the counter, the clerk's polite, "Enjoy your stay," ringing hollow as I signed the paperwork, pen scratching unevenly. The drive to the family home took an hour, traffic crawling along the freeway, horns blaring sporadically. I kept the radio off, the silence amplifying my thoughts, rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd hold my ground without exploding. Palms sweaty on the wheel, I wiped them on my jeans one at a time, glancing at the dashboard clock. Almost there. The house loomed at the end of the cul-de-sac, same as always, manicured lawn, white picket fence, porch light glowing even in daylight. I parked curbside, engine ticking as it cooled, and sat there a moment, hands still on the wheel. Deep breath, in through nose, out through mouth, like those mindfulness apps suggested. Finally I grabbed my bag, slamming the car door with more force than needed, the thud reverberating. The front door swung open before I reached it. Mom, apron tied around her waist, hair perfectly coiffed. "Rebecca, you made it." She pulled me into a hug, but it was stiff, her arms loose, patting my back twice before releasing. No warmth, just protocol. I smelled her perfume, the same floral one that always made my nose itch. "Yeah, traffic was light," I muttered, stepping inside. The foyer hit me with nostalgia, polished hardwood floors, family photos lining the walls, mostly Callum's milestones, Little League trophies, prom king crown, college diploma. Mine? A small one from high school, tucked in the corner like an afterthought. Dad appeared from the living room, newspaper folded under his arm. "Becca," he nodded, extending a hand for a shake instead of a hug, his grip firm and quick. "Good to see you. Flight okay?" "Fine." I set my bag down by the stairs, toes curling in my shoes against the cool floor. Already the air felt thick, charged with unspoken judgments. "Come in, sit," Mom said, ushering me to the kitchen table where appetizers waited. Cheese platter, crackers, olives speared with toothpicks. She poured iced tea, glass clinking against the pitcher, handing it over with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You look tired? Long trip?" I took a sip, the tea too sweet coating my tongue. "Just the usual. Avoid details, don't give openings." Callum arrived then, bounding down the stairs in slacks and a button-down, Emily trailing behind him. She was pretty, polished, blonde hair in waves, engagement ring flashing under the lights. "Sis," Callum grinned, pulling me into a bear hug that squeezed too hard, his cologne overpowering. "Glad you came, means a lot." Emily smiled shyly, extending a manicured hand. "Hi Rebecca, we've heard so much about you." I shook it, her palm cool and soft. "Likewise." "Heard what? The black sheep stories?" We settled around the table, chairs scraping as everyone sat. Mom fussed with napkins, folding them precisely before placing one in each lap. "So Rebecca," she started, voice light but probing. "Tell us about Oregon. Still doing that design thing?" There it was, the first jab, wrapped in curiosity. I speared an olive, toothpick clicking against my teeth as I chewed slowly. "Yeah, graphic design, just landed a big client actually, national brand." Dad grunted, reaching for cheese. "National? That's something. Pay well?" "Enough." I kept it vague, fork pushing crumbs around my plate. "Don't boast, they'll twist it." Callum leaned back, arm around Emily. "Cool, I remember your drawings as a kid, always doodling, glad it's paying off." Backhanded, implying surprise it amounted to anything. Emily nodded eagerly. "Must be exciting, Portland right? I hear it's rainy. Don't you miss the sun?" "A bit," I lied, sipping more tea to swallow the irritation. "Miss this?" "No." Mom chimed in, slicing cheese with a knife that glinted. "Well, it's good you're keeping busy, but at 29, don't you think about settling down? Callum here's got it figured. Good job, house in the works, wedding next year." She beamed at him, hand on his arm. I felt my jaw tighten, teeth clenching briefly before I forced a smile. "I'm settled in my way, happy there." Dad chuckled, low and dismissive. "Happy's fine but practical? Art's a hobby, Becca. Callum went into finance, stable benefits. You could too if you applied yourself." "Applied myself? As if I hadn't." I set my glass down harder than intended, liquid sloshing. "Design's stable for me, the firm's growing." Callum jumped in, steering. "Hey, Em's in marketing, similar field, you two should chat." Emily perked up. "Oh yes, I do social media for a boutique. What software do you use, Photoshop?" "Yeah, among others." I nodded, but her eyes glazed slightly, already shifting. The questions kept coming, a steady barrage. "Mom, met anyone special up there? You're not getting younger." Her eyebrow arched, knife pausing mid-slice. "No one serious." Truth, but it stung, the implication I was failing at life. "Dad, rent high? Bet it's eating your paycheck. We could help, if you moved back." Offer laced with control. "I'm managing." Fingers drummed the table edge, nails tapping softly. "Callum, saw your Instagram, nice hikes, but dude, get out more. Parties? Dates?" Grin wide like advice from a superior. Emily, your hair looks great shorter, braver than me. Compliment? Or dig at my unconventional style? Each one landed like a pebble, building a pile in my chest. I answered shortly, deflecting, but inside, heat rose. Micro-actions betrayed them. Mom's averted gaze when I mentioned the client, Dad's subtle headshake, Callum's pitying pat on my back. Appetizers cleared, Mom stood, plates clattering in the sink. Dinner's almost ready. Rebecca, help set the table? Command, not ask. I rose, grabbing silverware, utensils clinking as I placed them. In the dining room, crystal glasses caught the light, tablecloth ironed smooth. I aligned forks precisely, buying time. Back in the kitchen, whispers, Mom to Dad, she seems off, think she's okay, concern or criticism. Dinner served, roast, potatoes, salad. We sat, napkins unfolding. Grace skipped, straight to eating. Forks scraped plates, chewing filled silences. Then escalation. Dad, so this job, benefits, retirement? Probing finances like I was a child. Full package. Lie a bit, freelance side lacked but whatever. Mom, but alone we worry. Callum has Emily's support system. I'm fine, voice sharper now, knife cutting meat with force. Callum, come on sis, admit it, you miss us, Oregon's temporary, right? No. They paused, forks midair. Emily tried lightning. The ring, Callum picked it. Your art eye? Thoughts? It's nice. But tension thickened. The gauntlet peaked with Mom's sigh. We're just saying, Rebecca, we want what's best. You've always been different. But family helps guide. Guide? Control. I pushed my plate away, appetite gone, hands folding in lap, fingers interlacing tight. The evening stretched, each word a test. I endured, but the pile of pebbles felt like boulders now. The plates were mostly cleared by then, scraps of roast congealing in gravy pools, forks set down with soft clinks as the conversation lulled for a merciful second. I pushed back from the table slightly, chair legs scraping the hardwood, hoping to signal an end, maybe escape to the guest room early, plead jet lag. But Mom dabbed her mouth with a napkin, folding it precisely before placing it beside her plate, her eyes locking onto mine with that calculated calm she reserved for important discussions. The air in the dining room thickened, chandelier light casting long shadows across the tablecloth, and I felt the shift, like the room itself was holding its breath. Rebecca, she started, voice steady but edged, leaning forward with elbows on the table, a rare breach of her etiquette. We've been talking, your father and I, and Callum too. She glanced at him, and he nodded solemnly, fingers interlaced with Emily's under the table, her knuckles whitening as she squeezed. Dad cleared his throat, reaching for his water glass, taking a slow sip before setting it down with a deliberate thud. I froze, hand midway to my own glass. The cool condensation slick under my fingertips. Talking about what? But I knew. The barrage from earlier wasn't random, it was prelude. Dad took over, his gaze hard, the same one he'd used when I was a teen coming home late. About you, this path you're on, Oregon, the job, cutting us out, it's not working, for any of us. Not working? I echoed, voice rising a notch despite my effort to stay even. My foot tapped under the table, heel bouncing against the floor in rapid, silent rhythm. I'm living my life, how is that not working? Mom sighed, that dramatic exhale again, her hand fluttering to her necklace, twisting the pearl pendant between fingers. Honey, you're isolating yourself. We barely hear from you, and when we do, it's excuses. No visits, no real updates. It's like you're punishing us for something. Punishing them? The irony burned. I gripped the table edge, nails digging into the wood grain, feeling the slight give under pressure. I'm not punishing anyone. I moved for me, for a fresh start. You act like it's a betrayal. Callum chimed in, leaning forward, his chair creaking. Sis, come on, we get it. You needed space. But this? Skipping family stuff until we drag you? It's hurtful. Emily and I are building something here and we want you part of it, but you're making it hard. Emily nodded beside him, her free hand tracing circles on the tablecloth, avoiding my eyes. We do want you involved. Family's everything. Family, I repeated, the word tasting sour. I scanned their faces, Mom's pursed lips, Dad's furrowed brow, Callum's earnest stare. United front. But only on your terms. Celebrate Callum, ignore me unless it's convenient. That's not family, that's a script. Dad's face reddened, vein pulsing in his temple. He pushed his chair back an inch, napkin crumpling in his fist. Watch your tone, young lady. We've given you everything, roof, education, support, and this is how you repay? By running off and acting superior? Superior? I laughed, short and bitter, the sound echoing off the walls. My hands trembled now, so I clasped them in my lap, fingers twisting together. I'm just done being the afterthought. You celebrate his every win, dismiss mine. Why am I here? For photos? To look complete? Mom's eyes welled, but no tears fell. She dabbed at them with the napkin corner. You're exaggerating, we love you both equally. But Callum, he's stable. You're floundering, we worry. Floundering, the word landed like a slap. I felt heat creep up my neck, ears burning. I'm not, I just told you, I landed a huge client, my work's valued, but you don't care unless it's your version of success. Callum shook his head, arm tightening around Emily. That's not fair, we're proud, but family comes first, you've ghosted us. Ghosted? You call when you need something, never just to check in. My voice cracked slightly, and I hated it. Vulnerability slipping through. I straightened, shoulders squaring against the chair back. The room fell silent for a beat, silverware glinting under the light, untouched now. Then Dad spoke, voice low and final. Enough, we've decided. If you can't commit to this family, to showing up, to being part of our lives without this attitude, we're done helping. Financially, emotionally, all of it. Done helping. I blinked, processing. What does that mean? Mom interjected, voice firmer now. It means no more safety net. The inheritance we've set aside, redirected to Callum for his wedding, house down payment. Holidays? You're welcome if you make effort, but we won't chase. And emotionally? She trailed off, glancing away, hand smoothing the tablecloth. Emotionally? We're cutting ties. Dad finished, words hanging heavy. Until you change. You're disowned. Rebecca, for your own good, maybe it'll wake you up. Disowned. The verdict slammed into me, chest tightening like a vice. I stared at him, his eyes unyielding, jaw set. Callum shifted uncomfortably but didn't protest. Emily bit her lip, gaze on her lap. You're serious, I whispered, more statement than question. My hands unclenched, palms flat on thighs, feeling the denim's texture to ground myself. Mom nodded, tears genuine now, one slipping down her cheek. She wiped it quickly. We don't want this, but you've left us no choice. Come back when you're ready to be family. The escalation peaked there, words like daggers. I pushed my chair back fully, standing on shaky legs, knees locking to steady. I am family, but not your version. If this is it, fine, I don't need your help. Dad stood too, napkin dropping to the floor. Don't be dramatic, sit down. No. I turned, steps measured toward the door, heart pounding in ears. Behind me murmurs, Mom's soft sob. Callum's, wait, sis! But I kept walking, grabbing my bag from the foyer, zipper rasping as I checked for keys. The front door handle cool under my palm, I twisted it open, night air rushing in, carrying faint neighbor laughter. Rebecca? Mom called, but I didn't look back. Stepped out, door clicking shut behind me. In the car, engine roaring to life, I gripped the wheel, breaths shallow. Disowned. The word echoed, but beneath the hurt, a strange relief bloomed. Free. I drove aimlessly at first, streets blurring, until pulling into a motel lot. Checked in, keycard beeping the lock. Room sparse, bed, lamp, silence. I sank onto the mattress, head in hands, fingers threading through hair. The conversation replayed their united dismissal, my stand. It hurt, raw and deep, but final. No more pretending. Texts buzzed. Callum, come back, let's talk. Mom, we love you. Dad, nothing. I powered off the phone, screen going dark, curled up, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling fan's slow spin. The verdict was in. I was out. But in that solitude I felt the first stirrings of true independence. The motel room's thin curtains did little to block the parking lot lights, casting striped shadows across the bed where I lay, still in my clothes from dinner, shoes kicked off haphazardly onto the carpet. My body felt heavy, sunk into the sagging mattress, but my mind raced. Replaying the dining room scene in loops, the way Dad's fist had clenched around his napkin, Mom's single tear tracing her cheek, Callum's uncomfortable shift in his seat. Disowned. The word echoed like a slammed door, final and hollow. I stared at the popcorn ceiling, tracing cracks with my eyes, fingers idly picking at a loose thread on the comforter. Part of me wanted to cry, to let the hurt spill out, but another part, deeper, angrier, held it back. Why waste tears on people who'd never truly seen me? The clock on the nightstand glowed 10:47 p.m., red digits blurring as I blinked away dryness. I'd powered off my phone earlier, but now, in the silence broken only by the hum of the air conditioner, I reached for it in my bag, the zipper rasping softly. Maybe check flights home, get out early, leave this all behind. I pressed the power button, the screen flickering to life, notifications piling up like accusations. Texts from Mom, please come back, from Callum, we can fix this. Nothing from Dad. I swiped them away, thumb lingering on the delete icon, but hesitated. Not yet. Then, as if on cue, the phone vibrated in my hand, a sharp buzz that made me jolt. The caller ID flashed, Lena, my boss from the firm. What? It was late, even for workaholics like her. My heart skipped, a mix of confusion and dread. Had something gone wrong with the client deal? I answered on the third ring, voice hoarse from the unshed tears. Lena? Everything okay? Rebecca, oh, thank God you picked up. Her voice burst through, excited, almost breathless, contrasting the motel room's stale quiet. I sat up straighter, back against the headboard, the wood creaking under my weight. I know it's late. Wait, you're in California, right? Time difference, but this couldn't wait. You sitting down? Yeah, I said, drawing my knees up, hugging them with one arm. The comforter bunched under me, fabric rough against my skin. What's going on? She laughed, a genuine, bubbling sound that cut through my fog. The client? The eco brand? They didn't just sign the contract. They loved your design so much, they're expanding the scope, double the budget, and they want you leading the creative team. This is huge, Rebecca. Like career-defining. We're talking press releases, potential awards. Your waterfall logo? They said it's revolutionary, captures their ethos perfectly. I blinked, processing, the words sinking in slowly. Double the budget, leading the team. My hand tightened around the phone, knuckles paling. Wait, seriously? They said that? Word for word in the email follow-up. And get this, they want a virtual kickoff Monday, but they're flying you out to their HQ in Seattle next month for the full rollout. Expenses paid, of course. This puts the firm on the map, but you? You're the star here. I always knew you had it, but damn girl, this is next level. The room spun a bit, not from dizziness but from the rush. I pressed my free hand to my forehead, fingers cool against flushed skin. Just hours ago I'd been labeled a failure, floundering, disowned for not fitting their mold, and now this. A validation so tangible it felt like a lifeline thrown in the dark. Lena, I don't know what to say. Thank you for believing in me. Believe in you? You earned this. Your portfolio screamed talent from day one. Remember that first pitch you did, hands shaking but ideas on fire? This is the payoff. She paused, tone shifting to concern. You sound off though. Family stuff, okay? I hesitated, biting my lip, the metallic taste faint. Micro movements, my toes curled into the sheets, seeking stability. It's complicated, but this call, perfect timing. We talked details then, contract tweaks, timelines, my new role's perks, salary bump, remote flexibility if needed, even stock options. I paced the small room as she spoke, socks whispering on the carpet, passing the mirror where my reflection looked wide-eyed, transformed. The hurt from dinner lingered, a bruise, but this overlaid it with triumph. True scale of success, not just a job but a launchpad. I'd built this. Nights hunched over my tablet, stylus clicking, iterations until perfection. No family handouts, my grit. Ending the call, see you Monday, celebrate when you're back, Lena said. I hung up, phone warm in my palm, and sank back onto the bed, exhaling long and slow. The external event right at my lowest. Humiliation's echo faded against this roar. I scrolled emails next, finding the client's message. Rebecca's vision aligned seamlessly, eager to collaborate, my name praised. Internal shift hit hard. I stood, walking to the window, parting curtains with a finger, peering at the lot, cars parked haphazardly, a distant siren wailing. Disowned? Fine. This success was mine, untouchable. No more begging for scraps of approval. The call revealed it. I'd outgrown them, but doubt flickered. Share this? Text them? Prove wrong? No, that'd drag me back. Instead, I drafted to Sarah. Big news. Landed huge promotion. Tell you tomorrow. Sent, with a smiley. Her reply instant. Yes, proud of you. Drinks on me. Contrast sharpened the moment. Family's rejection versus this affirmation. I turned from the window, flicking on the lamp, warm light spilling. Unpacked my bag partially, toothbrush out, paste squeezed onto bristles with a soft squish. Brushing in the tiny bathroom, mirror fogging from the sink's hot water, I met my eyes. Stronger. Back on the bed, I journaled on my phone's notes app, fingers tapping rapidly. They cut me off, but the universe handed me wings. Words flowed, raw thoughts spilling. The call wasn't coincidence, it was punctuation to their verdict. Deepest humiliation, transformed to empowerment. As midnight neared, I lay down properly, pulling covers up, fabric cool. Sleep came easier now, the phone beside me like a talisman. Tomorrow, flight home, to Oregon, my sanctuary. The true scale? Infinite. Tomorrow's flight couldn't come soon enough. But as I lay there in the motel bed, the phone still warm from Lena's call clutched in my hand like a shield, sleep refused to settle. The fan whirred overhead, stirring the stale air, and my mind churned with the night's wreckage, the disownment still raw, a fresh wound, now bandaged by this unexpected triumph. The client's praise echoed, Rebecca's vision aligned seamlessly, a stark counterpoint to Dad's floundering. I shifted under the covers, the sheets rustling against my skin, and sat up abruptly, heart pounding with a new resolve. Why hide here? Why let their last words be the verdict? Empowered by the call, I grabbed my keys from the nightstand, the metal jangling coldly, and slipped my shoes back on, laces tugged tight with determined yanks. I'd go back, not to beg, but to expose the truth, their hypocrisy laid bare, before walking out for good. The drive back felt shorter, headlights cutting through the suburban night, street lamps blurring as I gripped the wheel, knuckles whitening with each turn. My reflection in the rearview mirror showed set eyes, jaw clenched, rehearsing words in my head, calm, not explosive, make them see. The house lights were still on when I pulled up, glowing warmly through the windows like nothing had shattered inside. I parked in the driveway this time, engine clicking off into silence, and stepped out, the cool night air nipping at my arms. Front door, key still on my ring, twisted in the lock with a familiar snick. No knocking, this was my entry, my terms. They were in the living room, clustered on the couch, Mom with a tissue crumpled in her fist, eyes red-rimmed, Dad in his recliner, remote idle in lap, Callum pacing slowly, Emily beside him twisting her ring nervously. The TV murmured low, some late-night show, but heads snapped up at my entrance, the door thudding shut behind me. Surprise rippled across their faces, Mom's hand flying to her mouth, a gasp escaping, Dad's brows furrowing deeper, Callum stopping mid-stride, arms dropping limp. "Rebecca?" Mom whispered, half rising, the tissue fluttering to the floor. "You came back." I stood in the doorway, bag slung over shoulder, posture straight, feeling the carpet under my feet like solid ground for the first time that night. "Not to stay, but I have something to say." My voice steady, though inside adrenaline surged, pulse thumping in my ears. Dad leaned forward, chair creaking, his face a mix of relief and wariness. "Good. We overreacted. Sit down, let's talk this out like family." Overreacted? I almost laughed but held it, stepping closer, hands loose at sides to hide the slight tremble. "Talk? You disowned me an hour ago, called me a failure, but now suddenly family?" Callum moved toward me, hand outstretched like calming a wild animal. "Sis, we were upset. You stormed out, we didn't mean it like that. Come on, Emily made coffee, let's cool down." Emily nodded vigorously, standing to gesture at the kitchen, her earrings swaying. "Yes, please, it's decaf, we can figure this out." Their scramble was almost comical. Sudden softness, offers of coffee, as if erasing the blade they'd wielded. Mom dabbed her eyes again, voice pleading. "We love you, honey, it was heat of the moment, you're our daughter, always." I shook my head slowly, feeling the weight lift as I spoke. "Love? Where was that earlier? When you dismissed my life as floundering? When you said my work was a hobby, not real like Callum's?" I locked eyes with Dad, who averted his gaze slightly, fingers drumming the armrest. "You want me here for appearances, not me. Photos, unity, superficial, but when I don't fit I'm out." Mom's face crumpled, but she reached for me, hand hovering before dropping. "That's not true. We worry because we care. Your choices, they're risky. We just want security for you." Security? Now I did laugh, short and sharp, echoing in the room. I pulled my phone from my pocket, screen lighting up as I thumbed to the email, holding it out, not for them to read, but as proof. "While you were disowning me, I got a call. That hobby job? We landed a national client. Double budget, me leading the team. They're flying me to Seattle, talking awards. This is success, my way, valued, real. But you couldn't see it because it doesn't match your script." Silence fell, heavy. Callum's mouth opened, then closed, his hand rubbing the back of his neck, avoiding eye contact. Emily's eyes widened, glancing between us, fingers stilling on her ring. Dad shifted, clearing his throat, but no words came immediately, his usual authority faltering, face paling slightly. Mom broke first, voice wavering. "That's wonderful, Rebecca. See, we knew you had potential. This changes things. Come home more, share these wins." "Changes things?" I lowered the phone, slipping it back, feeling calm settle like armor. No, it exposes you. If I were still floundering, I'd be cut off. But now, success, and suddenly I'm welcome? Hypocrisy. You don't celebrate me, you use me, for the image, the story. Callum's the star, I'm the prop. Dad finally spoke, voice gruff, rising from the chair with a groan, hands clenching at sides. Watch it, we're proud, always have been, but family requires effort. You can't just... Proud, I cut in, voice rising just enough, stepping forward. Where was pride when I won art awards? Graduated top, you barely noticed. But Callum's every goal, promotion, parties. I was invisible and less convenient. Now, this win, and you scramble to claim it? No, I'm done with your conditional love. Callum interjected, face flushing, arm gesturing vaguely. That's not fair, I include you. This engagement, wanted you here genuinely? Genuinely? I turned to him, seeing the crack in his confidence, his shoulders slumping a fraction. You bask in their favoritism, never called it out, enjoyed the spotlight while I faded. Hypocrites, all of you, preaching family but practicing exclusion. Emily stayed silent, shrinking back, her hand covering her mouth subtly. Mom sank onto the couch, sobs quiet now, tissue pressed to face. Dad deflated, sitting again, muttering, We didn't mean... But you did. I straightened, bag adjusted on shoulder, the strap digging in, but ignored. I'm severing ties. Not out of anger, out of self-respect. Block my number if you want, I will yours. Live your narrative without me. The room stilled, their stunned faces frozen. Mom's tears streaming unchecked, Dad's head bowed, Callum staring at the floor, Emily's eyes darting away. No more scramble, just defeat. I turned, steps deliberate to the door, hand on knob, twisting slowly. Goodbye. Outside, door clicking shut, night air enveloped me, stars sharp overhead. Car started with a roar, pulling away, house shrinking in the mirror. Powerful exit, final mine. Back at motel I collapsed, but peace bloomed. Exposed, free. Morning light filtered through the motel's flimsy curtains, pulling me from a restless sleep, where dreams mixed the dining room confrontation with flashes of my designs coming alive on billboards. I blinked at the ceiling, the fan still spinning lazily above, and for a moment, the weight of last night pressed down. Disowned, exposed, but undeniably free. My body ached from the lumpy mattress, muscles stiff as I swung my legs over the edge, feet planting on the worn carpet. The phone on the nightstand showed 7:12 a.m., battery low, but no new messages since I'd blocked their numbers in a final decisive tap before bed. Good, no bridges left to burn. I stood, stretching my arms overhead, joints popping softly, and moved to the bathroom sink, twisting the faucet with a squeak. Cold water splashed my face, droplets clinging to my lashes as I stared at my reflection. Eyes shadowed but clearer, Colette like the storm had passed. Quick pack-up, toothbrush back in the bag, zipper pulled with a rasp, shoes laced tight. Checkout was a nod to the clerk, keycard slid across the counter, and then out to the car, door slamming with finality. Airport bound, the drive blurred with early traffic, radio off, my thoughts turning northward. Oregon waited, home, real home, with its rain and rivers and people who'd chosen me. The flight was uneventful, turbulence minimal, my window seat offering views of clouds like cotton below. I doodled on a napkin mid-air, swirling lines that morphed into faces, Sarah's warm smile, Jake's easy grin, from the art group I'd joined months ago. They were my allies, not blood but bond, forged in shared hikes and late-night critiques. No obligations, just genuine. As the plane descended, Portland's green sprawl emerging, a text from Sarah pinged on landing. Back yet? Group hang at my place tonight, potluck. Missed you. I smiled, thumbs typing, just landed, count me in. Baggage claim, then Uber home, the driver chatting about weather while I nodded absently, bag heavy on my lap. My apartment greeted me with familiar quiet, plants slightly wilted, mail piled by the door. I watered the ferns first, fingers brushing leaves, cool soil under nails, then unpacked minimally, dress tossed in the hamper with a wrinkle of disdain. Shower next, hot water pounding my back, steam rising as I scrubbed away California's residue, the tension in my shoulders easing with each rinse. Evening approached and I prepped for the potluck, chopped veggies for a salad, knife thunking rhythmically on the cutting board, olive oil drizzled with a glug. Simple, fresh, like my life here. Dressed casual, jeans, sweater, boots, and out the door, bowl covered in foil crinkling under my arm. Sarah's place was a short walk, streets lined with dripping trees, puddles reflecting street lights, The air smelled of wet earth, invigorating after California's dry heat. She answered the door with a hug, arms enveloping me warmly, no stiffness, just squeeze. "Rebecca, you look rested, tell me everything later." Her apartment buzzed, 8 of us total, the art group core. Jake with his guitar propped nearby, Mia sketching on a napkin already, others milling with plates. Cozy space, walls covered in prints, mine among them, a river scene I'd gifted her. "Food on the counter," Sarah directed, taking my bowl, foil rustling as she uncovered it. We settled in the living room, mismatched chairs and floor cushions, plates balanced on knees. Conversation flowed easy, no interrogations, just shares. Jake strummed softly, chords humming as he asked, "How was the trip? Family good?" I paused, fork midway to mouth, green speared. The toxic dinner flashed, Mom's tears, Dad's clenched jaw, Callum's averted eyes. "Not really. Big blow-up. They cut ties." Voice steady, but I set the fork down, hands folding in lap. Silence brief, then Mia leaned in, her bracelet jangling. "Damn, Rebecca, that sucks. What happened?" I recounted, measured words. The demands, dismissals, disownment. Micro details, the napkin crumpling in Dad's fist, Mom's pearl twisting, my phone's glow with Lena's call. They listened, no interruptions, faces open, Sarah's brow furrowed in empathy. Jake's strumming paused. When I finished, the client win included, Sarah set her plate aside, scooting closer on the cushion, hand on my arm, warm and firm. "That's bullshit, but look at you, thriving despite them. We're proud as hell." Jake nodded, guitar set down with a soft thunk. "Blood doesn't make family, we do. Remember that hike last month? You led us through that fog, no map, just instinct. That's you, strong." Others chimed, "Your family here." "Screw their script." Laughter followed, lightning, Mia mimicking a stuffy parent voice. "But darling, art isn't real." We chuckled, tension dissolving. Potluck progressed, dishes passed, clinking forks, stories swapped. Sarah's lasagna, gooey cheese pulling, Jake's cookies, chocolate melting on tongues. I relaxed, legs crossed, leaning back, the warmth seeping in. Contrast stark. There, contempt's gauntlet, backhanded barbs. Here, genuine lifts. No judgments on my impractical path, just celebration. "Your designs for that brand? Show us," Mia urged. Phone passed around, my sketches zoomed in, oohs and ahs sincere. As night deepened, we migrated to the balcony, rain pattering on the awning, mugs of tea steaming, Sarah beside me, elbow nudging. "You okay? Really?" I sipped, herbal warmth spreading. "Yeah, hurts, but this makes it bearable." Her smile, lit by string lights, affirmed. Back inside, clean-up communal, plates stacked, suds bubbling in sync, hands brushing in easy rhythm, hugs goodbye, promises of next meetup. Walking home, bowl empty under arm, streets quiet, I felt the difference bone deep. Biological ties? Severed? Toxic? Chosen ones? Nourishing, real. This moment sealed it. Warmth over blood. The walk home from Sarah's lingered in my steps, the empty salad bowl tucked under my arm, its plastic cool against my side as the rain picked up, droplets pattering on leaves overhead. Streetlights cast long, wavering shadows on the wet pavement, and I pulled my sweater tighter, the wool scratching faintly at my neck. That evening's warmth, genuine, unforced, had seeped into me, a balm against the raw edges left by California. But as I unlocked my apartment door, the key scraping in the lock, reality settled back in. The aftermath waited, not just emotional echoes but practical ones. Blocked numbers wouldn't stop everything. There'd be emails, maybe letters, attempts to pull me back. I needed boundaries, solid ones, a fortress to protect this life I'd built. Inside, I set the bowl in the sink, water running briefly to rinse it, suds bubbling up before swirling down the drain. The apartment felt smaller tonight, but safer. My space, my rules. I kicked off my boots, toes flexing against the rug, and headed to my desk, flipping open my laptop with a soft click. First things first. Digital walls. Email filters, I typed their addresses into the block list, fingers tapping deliberately, each keystroke a declaration. Move to spam, I selected, then delete permanently for good measure. Social media next, unfollow, unfriend, privacy settings cranked to max. My thumb hovered over Callum's profile, his smiling engagement photo staring back, before confirming the block, screen refreshing to blank. But it wasn't just tech. Boundaries meant internal shifts too. I grabbed my journal from the shelf, pages whispering as I flipped to a blank one. Pen cap popped off with my teeth. New rules, I wrote at the top, underlined bold. 1. No responding to guilt trips, ever. 2. Focus energy on Oregon life, work, friends, art. 3. If they reach out indirectly, ignore or redirect. The pen scratched steadily, ink flowing as I added more micro guidelines for the macro change. It felt proactive, like mapping a path through fog. Morning brought the first test, coffee brewing, the gurgle filling the kitchen, my phone buzzed, an unknown number, area code from home. Voicemail, Mom's voice, tearful. "Rebecca, it's me. We need to talk. Please call." I listened once, finger pressing play, her words hanging in the air like smoke. Delete. No callback. Instead, I poured the coffee, steam rising, and sat at the table sipping slowly, the bitterness grounding me. Rule 1 in action. Work that day amplified the fortress building. Back at the firm, badge swiping the door, Lena greeted me with a hug. Real, squeezing. "Welcome back. Meeting in 10. Client kickoff." The office hummed, keyboards clacking, printers whirring. At my desk I organized files, mouse clicking through folders, renaming with precise labels. The promotion meant more, leading the team, so I drafted an agenda, bullet points aligning neatly. No distractions, this was my domain. But midday, an email slipped through. A cousin, forwarded from Mom. "Heard about the fight, family's worried. Reach out." Attachment, old photo, us kids at a picnic. I stared, cursor hovering, the image tugging at nostalgia. But no. Indirect reach. Reply, "Appreciate the concern, but I'm handling it my way. Please don't forward messages." Send. Then block her too, for safety. Hands shook slightly after, so I stood, walking to the window, pressing palms against the cool glass. River flowing below, steady breaths, in, out. Afternoon brought reinforcement from allies. Lunch with Sarah at the cafe downstairs, sandwiches wrapped in paper, crinkling as we unwrapped. "How you holding?" she asked, biting into hers, crumbs scattering. "Building walls," I said, explaining the rules, fork spearing salad leaves. She nodded, no judgment, just listening, her elbow on the table. "Sounds smart. If they push, lean on us." Her hand covered mine briefly, warm and brief. Back upstairs, that support fueled me. Team meeting. I presented confidently, pointer clicking slides, voices murmuring approval. Evening, the aftermath intensified. Mail arrived, a letter from Dad, envelope thick, handwriting sharp. I slid it open with a knife, blade gliding smoothly, paper tearing. Inside, "We regret the words. Come home, discuss inheritance properly. You're still family." Check enclosed, $500 for travel. My stomach twisted, fingers crumpling the paper slightly before smoothing it. Temptation flickered, money for bills, but no. Rule 3, redirect. I shredded it, machine whirring, confetti falling into the bin. Check torn too, pieces fluttering. Then a reply letter, "Respect my space, no more contact." Stamped, mailed, finality in the drop. Nights tested resolve, alone, doubts crept, curled on the couch, blanket pulled up, remote clicking channels, aimlessly. What if I overreacted? Family's blood. But flashbacks grounded me, years of neglect, the dinner's cold verdict. I journaled more, pen digging in. Boundaries aren't rejection, they're self-care. Pages filled, therapeutic. Weeks blurred, boundaries solidifying through repetition. A package arrived, Mom's handwriting, contents rattling. Old sketches from childhood, note, "Remember your roots." I opened it carefully, tape peeling, drawings yellowed, touching but manipulative. Donated them to the art group, no return note. Rule 2, focus forward. Work demands helped. Seattle trip loomed, packing suitcase with folds precise, zipper closing snug. At the airport, security line shuffling, no family calls to dodge. On the plane, tray table down, I sketched ideas, pencil whispering on paper. Meetings there, handshakes firm, praise flowing. Your leadership shines. Boundaries extended professionally too, delegating tasks, saying no to overload. Back home, friends noticed the change. Art meetup, canvases propped, paint squeezing from tubes with soft plops. "You seem lighter," Jake said, brush dipping in water, swirling colors. "Fortress up," I replied, palette in hand, mixing hues. They got it, no probing, just support. One last push came via email from Callum, new address. "Emily's pregnant, be an aunt?" Photo attached, ultrasound fuzzy. Heart tugged, new life, innocent. But the ploy obvious. Reply, "Congrats, but boundaries stand, wish you well." Block. Tears came then, hot on cheeks, wiped with sleeve. Grieved the loss, but affirmed the gain. In time, the fortress felt less like walls, more like foundation. Mornings, runs along the river, shoes pounding pavement, breath puffing in mist. Evenings, dinners solo or with chosen ones, laughter echoing. No more eggshells, just peace. The aftermath handled, rules etched deep. I was safe, thriving. The fortress I'd built wasn't just about keeping them out, it was about channeling what I'd gained into something bigger, something that redefined not just my path, but the legacy tied to my name. Morgan, once a label of neglect and expectation, could mean more, on my terms. That realization crystallized during a quiet afternoon at the firm, weeks after the boundaries solidified, when Lena called me into her office for a one-on-one that shifted everything. I was at my desk, mouse scrolling through design revisions for the Eco brand's new campaign, the screen's glow reflecting in my eyes as I adjusted color gradients with precise clicks. The office hummed around me, colleagues typing, a printer whirring in the background, but my focus was laser sharp, each tweak a small victory in the project's expansion. "Rebecca? Got a minute?" Lena's voice cut through, her head poking around the cubicle wall, glasses perched on her nose. I nodded, saving the file with a quick keystroke, the dialog box popping up and vanishing. Standing, I smoothed my shirt, fingers brushing the fabric's wrinkles, and followed her down the hall, shoes padding softly on the carpet. Her office was cluttered but inviting, sketches pinned haphazardly on walls, a plant trailing vines over the desk. "Oh." She gestured to the chair opposite hers, the leather creaking as I sat, crossing my legs at the ankles. She leaned back, chair swiveling slightly, hands folding in her lap. "The client's thrilled with your lead on this, but I want to talk bigger picture. With the promotion, you're not just designing, you're influencing. What if we leveraged that for impact? Something community-focused?" I blinked, leaning forward slightly, elbows on knees. "Like what?" My mind raced. But her words sparked an idea I'd toyed with in late-night sketches, using my skills to mentor underserved artists, turning my success into a ripple. She smiled, reaching for a notepad on her desk, pen clicking open. "Exactly. We've got budget from the deal, why not a workshop series? You run it, graphic design for local youth, eco-themes tying to our brand, positive PR but real change, and it'd be under your name, Morgan Creative Initiative or something." Morgan. The name hit like a reclaiming. Not their version, stiff, conventional, but mine, creative, impactful. I felt a surge, fingers tapping the armrest subtly. "I'd love that, make it accessible, free sessions, supplies provided, focus on kids like I was, overlooked but talented." We brainstormed then, her pen scratching notes as ideas flowed. Micro details, venue at the community center, dates penciled in, Saturdays starting next month. Curriculum, basics to advanced, with my waterfall motif as example. Partnerships, local schools for outreach, her contacts scribbled down. I added, include storytelling, how design tells personal narratives. She nodded, underlining it twice, leaving her office door clicking shut behind me. The idea buzzed. Back at my desk, I opened a new file, cursor blinking as I typed, Morgan Mentorship Program. Sketched logos, flowing lines, greens and blues evoking Oregon's rivers, my stylus gliding over the tablet with smooth pressure. Each stroke felt like erasing their shadow. Dad's dismissals, mom's worries, Callum's overshadowing. This was legacy positive mind. Prep consumed the afternoon. Emails drafted. To the center, fingers flying over keys, send button clicked with satisfaction. Supply list. Tablets borrowed from work, paper stacks, markers. I envisioned the space. Tables arranged in circles, not rows, to foster sharing. No hierarchies, unlike home. Evening, I walked to the community center for a site visit, bag slung over shoulder, strap adjusting with a tug. The building was modest, brick exterior, doors creaking open to a lobby smelling of coffee and paint. Coordinator, a woman named Tara, greeted me, handshake firm, her rings cool against my palm. "Show me the room," I said, following her down a hall, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The space was perfect, large windows overlooking trees, walls blank for displays. I paced it, measuring mentally, steps counting off areas for stations. "We'll need easels here," I pointed, finger jabbing air. She noted it on her clipboard, pen tapping. We discussed logistics. Sign-ups via flyers I'd designed, her suggestions incorporated with nods. Home that night, I refined the flyer on my laptop, kitchen table cluttered with notes. Fonts chosen carefully, bold for Morgan Mentorship, inviting script for details. Printed a draft, paper feeding through the printer with a whir, holding it up to the light, edges crisp. This was impact. Kids getting what I craved. Validation. Tools. First session loomed, nerves building, days blurred in prep, sourcing materials, boxes arriving, unpacking with careful slits of the tape, content spilling out, tablets charged, cords coiled neatly, curriculum polished, lesson 1 on basics, my old sketches as examples, scanned and projected. Session day, early arrival, car loaded, boxes hefted with grunts, arms straining. Set up, tables dragged into place, screeching on linoleum, chairs arranged, clattering, name tags written, marker squeaking. Kids trickled in, 10 total, ages 14-18, shy at first, backpacks slung off shoulders with thuds. I stood at the front, hands clasped to hide the slight shake. Welcome to the Morgan Mentorship Program. I'm Rebecca Morgan, and this is about your stories through design. Voice steady, I passed out supplies, pencils rolling across tables. We dove in. Demo on sketching, my hand guiding charcoal across paper, smudges on fingers. They mirrored, brows furrowed, erasers rubbing mistakes. One girl, Anna, hesitated, pencil hovering. I knelt beside her, voice low. No wrong lines, just explorations. She nodded, tip pressing down. Break, snacks shared, cookies crumbling in hands, laughter building. Back to work, digital intro, tablets booted, screens flickering. I circulated, pointing at icons. Try this filter, finger tapping screens. End, shares, pieces held up, voices tentative then proud. Anna's landscape, it's my neighborhood. Applause. My claps leading, packing up, kids chattered. Next week? I nodded, stacking chairs with clangs. Driving home, windows down, wind whipping hair, fulfillment swelled. This was reclaiming, Morgan as mentor, not afterthought. Impact echoed. Their faces lit, potential unlocked. Weeks in, program grew. More sign-ups, waitlist formed. I adapted, guest speakers like Sarah, her demo on color theory, palette knives mixing paints with swirls. Kids engaged, questions flying, my notes jotting ideas. One evening, post-session, a parent waited, handshake grateful, this means everything to her. I smiled, bag heavy on shoulder. Legacy built, brick by brick. Through it, internal peace deepened. No more their names wait, now it's empowerment. Positive ripples, kidsy, art displayed locally, my name credited. Reclaimed, fully. The kids' art display at the local gallery marked a turning point, not just for the mentorship program but for me. A quiet culmination where the ripples of my efforts stared back from the walls, vibrant and unapologetic. I'd arrived early that Saturday, the gallery still hushed before opening, keys jangling in my hand as Tara unlocked the door with a metallic click. The space smelled of fresh paint and coffee from the back room, lights flickering on overhead with a soft hum, illuminating the hung pieces. Anna's neighborhood landscape in bold strokes, a boy's abstract eco-pattern swirling greens and blues, each one bearing a small tag with Morgan Mentorship Program printed neatly below the artist's name. I paced the room slowly, heels echoing on the polished concrete floor, stopping before each frame to adjust angles slightly, fingers grazing the edges to straighten them just so. This wasn't their legacy anymore, it was mine, reshaped into something generous, something that gave back without demanding conformity. As visitors trickled in, parents, locals, a few from the firm, the murmur built, voices blending into a warm buzz. I stood near the entrance, hands clasped loosely in front of me to hide the subtle fidget of my thumbs, watching reactions. A mother tilting her head at her child's work, smile blooming slow and proud, an older couple nodding appreciatively, whispering about the fresh talent. Sarah sidled up, elbow nudging mine gently, her presence a steady anchor. "Look at this, Rebecca, you did that." Her words landed soft, but they stirred the reflection brewing inside, a quiet unfolding that had been building since the program's start. One piece drew me repeatedly, Anna's, the girl who'd hesitated that first session. Her canvas captured a gritty urban park, but with hopeful bursts of color, flowers pushing through cracks, birds mid-flight. I lingered there, arms crossed over my chest, feeling the fabric of my blouse shift with each breath. Memories surfaced unbidden, not in a flood but in gentle waves. The childhood paintings dismissed with a glance. The high school play where applause felt borrowed. The college degree met with shrugs. Back then worth had been external, measured in their approvals, always falling short next to Callum's glare. I'd chased it, bet myself to fit, only to fracture. But here in this gallery with strangers' genuine praise floating around. "Such emotion in these lines," one said, pointing to Anna's work. The shift crystallized. I uncrossed my arms, hands dropping to my sides, palms open as if receiving something. My worth wasn't in their validation. Never had been. It was internal. Woven from the choices I'd made, the drive to Oregon with boxes rattling in the trunk, the late night sketching until my wrist ached, the boundaries erected like invisible fences, firm and unyielding. The disownment, once a gaping wound now scarred over, a reminder of survival. I didn't need their pride, I had my own, earned through the mentorship, the client wins, the chosen bonds that didn't demand performance. Anna approached then, her sneakers squeaking on the floor, eyes wide as she clutched a program booklet, fingers creasing the edges. "Ms. Morgan? Thanks for this. I didn't think my stuff was good enough." Her voice was small, but her posture straightened as she spoke, chin lifting slightly. I turned fully, meeting her gaze, my hand resting lightly on her shoulder, warm, reassuring. "It always was, you just needed to see it." The words echoed back to me, a mirror. She'd reflected my past self, overlooked and doubting but now blooming. Mentoring her, guiding the strokes, had been mentoring that younger me too, affirming that value blooms from within, not bestowed. The event wound down, guests departing with handshakes and nods, the door chiming each time. I helped pack leftovers, cookies wrapped in napkins crinkling softly, flyers stacked with a tap to align edges. Tara locked up, key turning with a final snick, and I stepped into the cooling evening, bag over shoulder, the air crisp with impending rain. Walking home, streets familiar underfoot, puddles from earlier showers reflecting the sunset's oranges, the realization deepened. Peace wasn't revenge or triumph over them, it was this quiet acceptance, self-validation as the truest anchor. At home, I sank into the couch, legs tucked under me, the cushion dipping comfortably, journal open on my lap, pen uncapped but hovering. I let thoughts flow without writing at first. Their faces faded. Mom's pitying sighs, Dad's commands, Callum's oblivious shine. No longer barbs, just echoes. I'd severed ties not to punish but to protect this inner core, the one that thrived in solitude and connection alike. Oregon's rhythms, river walks, art nights, work's creative hum, nourished it. The mentorship, proof that giving from fullness creates more, a cycle unbroken by past neglects. As night fell, window opened to the patter of rain, I finally wrote, "Worth is here, in the quiet choices, the internal yes." Pen set down, cap clicking back on, I felt it settle. Peace, profound and unshakable. No more chasing shadows. I was the light. The wind down hit as I closed the journal, the leather cover smooth under my palm, and stood to brew tea, kettle whistling softly on the stove. Steam rose as I poured, mug warm in hands, and I leaned against the counter, sipping slowly, the herbal notes soothing. Reflection complete, peace found. Not an end, but a beginning. Have you ever felt like your worth was tied to someone else's approval, only to realize it was always yours to claim? I know I did, and breaking free from that changed everything. If this story hit home, maybe you've got a family dynamic that's left you questioning your path, or perhaps you've built your own sanctuary after walking away. Drop your experience in the comments below. Sharing helps us all feel less alone in these journeys. If my path from neglect to self-validation resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more real talk stories that inspire standing in your truth, and share this with a friend who might need the reminder that it's okay, no, essential, to choose yourself. You're not selfish for it. You're strong. Remember, true peace comes from within, not from fitting someone else's mold. You've got this. Go flip your own script.